Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack compelling information, helping you get well-informed, fast.
And today we're diving into something that, well, it keeps capturing headlines and sparking debate. Unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs.
Exactly. We've got some fascinating sources lined up. Everything from a really recent high-profile incident
To historical military reports, some kept quiet for decades.
and even some pretty astonishing footage that was reportedly taken up in space.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today isn't just to list these off. We want to explore them, look for maybe patterns,
Consider what they challenge about our understanding of the world.
and help you think through what it all might mean. There's a lot here.
Definitely.
Okay, let's jump in. We'll start with something many of you probably remember quite vividly.
The SpaceX incident.
Yeah, the huge Falcon 9 rocket explosion, September 2nd, 2016, down at Cape Canaveral.
Right, it was on the launch pad for a test firing.
And then just boom, burst into flames.
And this wasn't just any rocket. It had that Israeli satellite on top.
The one meant for bringing internet to remote parts of Africa. A big deal for SpaceX and for Facebook too, right? Zuckerberg was heavily invested.
Absolutely. A major setback. They initially just called it the SpaceX anomaly.
Thankfully, no one was hurt, which is the most important thing.
Sure.
But what really kicked off the speculation and where our dive starts was what people claimed happened almost immediately after.
The reports of something else in the sky.
Exactly. Lots of people saying they saw, well, what looked like a UFO fly past right at the moment of the explosion,
And there was that video footage, too, the slow motion stuff.
showing that really fast object streaking by just as the rocket went up.
It's striking, isn't it?
Yeah.
How quickly a visual anomaly like that, especially tied to such a big event, can just ignite speculation.
Totally. So what did they find when they looked closer at that footage?
Well, despite how it looked at first and the incredible timing,
Yeah.
they eventually identified it. You could actually see rings flapping.
Get out. It was a bird.
It was a bird.
Wow. Okay.
But here's the crucial point. While that specific object was identified,
Uh-huh.
the actual cause of the Falcon 9 explosion itself, officially, it's still undetermined, still a mystery.
So the UFO part gets debunked, but the core event remains unexplained.
Precisely. And that really encapsulates a lot of the UAP discussion, doesn't it? A sighting might have a conventional explanation for one element, but often leaves a bigger underlying question unanswered.
That's a really important distinction, misidentified object versus unexplained event.
Exactly.
But what about when the core mystery isn't resolved, especially when it seems to involve our most sensitive technology?
Now you're getting into a much deeper and frankly more disturbing pattern that some sources point to.
Yeah, our sources talk about this pattern going back over 50 years. Claims that UAPs have interfered with, even disabled, rockets, missiles,
Warheads.
nuclear warheads. And these aren't just random stories. They're reportedly backed by military personnel. US, UK, Russia.
Other major military powers too, if these accounts are accurate.
Big if, but yeah.
It points towards something recurring. Something that raises huge questions about national security, maybe even information control.
It suggests something more deliberate than just chance encounters.
That's the implication, yes.
Okay, let's look at some specifics mentioned in the sources. First, Vandenberg Air Force Base, 1964.
Right, the Atlas F missile launch, a key part of the early U.S. ICBM program.
The reports say it got about 60 meters up, going incredibly fast, 14,000 miles per hour.
And then it just malfunctioned, plummeted into the ocean.
But the key witness, Lieutenant Dr. Robert Jacobs, he was filming it officially.
Yes, with a telescopic camera. And when he reviewed the film later with his superiors,
He saw something else.
he described a round object hovering near the missile just before it failed.
And he's quoted saying quite a bit more, isn't he?
He is. He said, it flew right up to our missile and emitted a vivid flash of light. Then it hovered, flashed again.
Flew around the missile twice, set off 2 more vivid flashes, then vanished.
And seconds later, the missile tumbles out of control.
And Jacobs claimed he was ordered to keep quiet about it for 17 years.
That's his testimony. If true, it's extraordinary.
Okay, then fast forward a few years. 1967, Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, nuclear missiles this time.
Yes, Minuteman ICBMs. Captain Robert Salas was an officer there.
And he's gone public saying the Air Force is, quote, lying about the national security implications of UAPs at nuclear bases.
He described an object hovering directly over the site.
And then what happened?
Moments later, 10 Minuteman missiles went offline. shut down.
10 ICBMs simultaneously. These things are designed with massive redundancy, right?
Exactly. To have 10 fail at once due to an external object hovering nearby, it's deeply unsettling.
And Salas said the same thing happened at another site a week later.
That's what he reported. He believes there's a strong interest in our missiles by these objects.
And he personally thinks they're not from planet Earth.
That's his stated belief, based on his experience.
Then across the Atlantic, RAF Bentwaters in England.
Colonel Charles Halt, the deputy base commander there at the time. Another significant site. It held nuclear weapons.
He reported seeing a UAP, beams of light firing into the base.
And hearing on the radio that, quote, aliens had landed inside the nuclear storage area.
Wow. His statement about it is pretty strong, too.
Very. He believes both U.S. and U.K. security services actively tried to subvert the significance of what happened using disinformation.
Covering it up, basically.
That's the accusation.
And one more quick one, 1976, Wyoming, another former Air Force officer, Captain Bruce Finstermacher.
He reported seeing a cigar-shaped UAP hovering over a nuclear base there.
So we're looking at Vandenberg, Malmstrom, Bentwaters, Wyoming. These aren't just random folks. These are military officers.
Often risking their careers and reputations to come forward, describing similar interactions around highly sensitive nuclear military assets.
So the question becomes, if these accounts are accurate, what does it imply?
About the capabilities, the intentions. It's a consistent theme. Interaction, sometimes disabling our most powerful tech.
It doesn't sound like outright aggression, though.
Not necessarily. Some interpret it almost like a monitoring, or perhaps demonstrating capability, a sort of gatekeeper presence near our most dangerous weapons.
Suggesting some kind of unseen influence on global stability. That's a heavy thought.
It is. And it deserves serious thought if the reports hold weight.
Okay, that historical military context is, frankly, chilling. But these phenomena aren't just historical artifacts or confined to military bases.
No, not at all. And this is where it gets, as you say, really interesting. Contemporary sightings, mass witness events.
And even stuff reportedly seen from space.
Right.
Let's talk about that mass sighting over Portland, Oregon.
Okay. This involved numerous people, separate reports coming in.
Seeing strange lights sitting in the sky, disappearing, then other lights appeared.
There's one video from a witness named Sean Sterling that's particularly compelling.
He's filming two bright gold lights.
And then as he's recording, a third object just appears. Out of nowhere, as he put it.
Yeah, his reaction on the video is raw. You hear the shock. This is some weird S. Something like that.
He says, I ain't never seen that S in my life. That M just came out of nowhere. Real unscripted reaction.
And he emphasizes it again. That light, the third light, just showed up out of nowhere.
You really get a sense of someone seeing something that just shatters their everyday reality.
And the key thing about Portland was, these weren't just one person's lights.
No, reports came from multiple viewpoints across the city. That suggests the objects were, well, pretty large.
And definitely not stars.
And the way they appeared, moved intentionally, then vanished. It implies some control.
A mass sighting makes it much harder to just dismiss as, one person seeing things wrong.
Absolutely. Collective observation adds significant weight.
Okay, and finally, the footage from space.
Yes. Reportedly captured during a spacewalk by Russian cosmonauts.
During an Olympic torch ceremony, of all things.
Right. The footage purportedly shows two UAPs, two unidentified objects, hovering in the background. They appear in a couple of different clips.
So in the first clip, what do we see?
Two white objects. They seem to zoom into the frame, then slow down rapidly, almost stopping completely.
Right outside the space station.
Exactly. And what's really intriguing is, just as they stop, the cosmonaut seemed to quickly pan his visor, his camera view, away.
Like he saw them and reacted.
That's the interpretation. And just as he does that, the objects reportedly change direction and start speeding up again, right before the camera cuts.
Okay.
A few moments later, the camera cuts back, and the same two objects are there again.
Still there.
Now to the left side. And if you watch closely, the top object is said to just disappear, like shoot out of frame incredibly fast.
While the other one stays for a moment longer.
Before the camera cuts again, this time to a shot of Earth.
So the implication is the astronaut saw them, was startled, tried to look away, but they were captured anyway.
That's the narrative presented with the footage, which was credited online to Scott Waring at UFO Sightings Daily. The reaction combined with the object's movement stopping, accelerating instantly, makes it highly unusual.
So we've gone from SpaceX to old military bases to a city skyline, now to orbit. What ties all this together?
Well, it's the consistency across these really different reports, isn't it?
How so?
The way objects appear and disappear suddenly, their ability to accelerate incredibly fast, make impossible turns, or just stop instantly,
Things that challenge our current understanding of physics.
profoundly. And
Mhm.
seeing these things reported in our atmosphere and in space, it broadens the scope beyond just, say, weather phenomena or known aircraft.
It really forces you to question what constitutes evidence when you're dealing with things that seem to operate outside known rules.
Exactly. It pushes the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Okay, so we've covered a huge amount today. That SpaceX anomaly, which had a partial explanation but left a mystery.
Then the really deep historical accounts from military personnel about UAPs near sensitive, even nuclear sites,
Right. Vandenberg, Malmstrom, Bentwaters, the patterns of interference,
followed by more recent events, the mass sighting over Portland.
and that really mind-bending footage allegedly from the spacewalk.
Mhm.
The common thread seems to be the sheer unidentified nature of it all.
And the huge questions that raises about physics, about intelligence, maybe even about reality itself.
Critical thinking is obviously key here.
Absolutely essential.
Mhm.
You have to question assumptions, look hard at the evidence, its quality, its source, and consider multiple explanations, even the extraordinary ones.
This deep dive definitely leaves us with a lot to chew on.
Yeah.
Given the range of these accounts, especially the military ones, where people potentially risked everything to speak out,
Yeah.
what level of evidence do you think it would actually take for there to be widespread public acceptance that something truly anomalous is happening?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What constitutes undeniable proof for something so paradigm-shifting?
And maybe a final thought. What if these aren't just disconnected incidents? What if the SpaceX anomaly, the nuclear base encounters, the city lights, the space objects, what if they're actually parts of a much bigger picture?
A larger pattern of interaction or maybe observation that we're only just starting to piece together.
Something to mull over until our next deep dive.